Hello and welcome to OpenRelay Screenside Chats episode 11. Today we are going to talk about the Friends of OpenRelay token. So Friends of OpenRelay token is abbreviated FORT, and we often will refer to the FORT token, which I understand stands for the Friends of OpenRelay token. But FORT token just has a nice ring to it, so we're sticking with it, kind of like PIN number and ATM machine. But what is FORT? FORT is the OpenRelay contributor program. So it is our way of rewarding the community for open source contributions. And it is an extension of the OpenRelay affiliate program. So if you remember back to OpenRelay Screenside Chats episode 3, we talked about this affiliate program architecture diagram. So the idea is if you have a developer who wants to build a dApp that involves trading, they can go to our affiliate factory, which will create a contract just for their dApp. They embed that contract's address into their dApp. A user comes along and uses the dApp to create an order. They submit that order to OpenRelay. It goes through our validation pipeline and eventually ends up in our order book. Another user, possibly using a different dApp, can then search the order database, find that order, and the dApp can submit it to the 0x exchange to fill the order, which will trade the tokens between this user and this user. But they will also provide one or both of the users will provide a fee that the 0x exchange contract will pay out to the affiliate contract for the affiliate who created the order. So those fees go to this affiliate contract, and then 80% of those fees will eventually be paid out to the developer, and 20% of those fees will be paid out to OpenRelay. So this is our standard affiliate program. Anybody can sign up for our affiliate program and get this deal. But for the people who are making open source contributions to OpenRelay, we have kind of an extension to this. So it looks pretty much the same, except that instead of having a single developer creating a dApp, all of the open source contributors who are contributing to all of the dApps that OpenRelay uses for creating orders share basically one contract address. So they are one affiliate, and all of those open source contributors own a stake in the fees that are produced by this dApp. So the fork process is that community members can make contributions to OpenRelay. And these contributions can be open source code contributions. It can be writing documentation. It can be translations. It can be promotion and community management. I want to stress that these contributions are not strictly writing code. We're looking for help in any place that we can get it. And anybody who contributes in any of those ways will be rewarded with FORT tokens. But where does the value of the FORT tokens come from? So OpenRelay's open source projects default to FORT as the fee recipient. So if an order gets created with our widget toolkit, or an order gets created with Massive, any fees paid when that order gets filled will go to FORT's affiliate contract, which will then make its way into the FORT asset vault, and everybody who holds FORT tokens has a claim to assets held by the FORT asset vault. So FORT will get fees, again, made by our widget toolkit and made by Massive. And the FORT tokens are redeemable for a share of FORT's assets. There's also a governance aspect to FORT. So the FORT token holders can vote on actions. These actions include administering and upgrading the FORT contracts, issuing new FORT tokens. So if we decide that the 10,000 FORT tokens that exist today are not enough, it will be up to the FORT token holders to vote to create more. And then the FORT vault can also allow us to pay dividends based on a vote held by the token holders. So the general architecture looks something like this. So there's 3 Ethereum contracts that manage the Fort system. The first is the token contract, and the token contract is a very standard Ethereum contract. So the token holders, using their tokens, are able to cast votes in the voting contract. The voting contract is used to administer both the token contract for the issuance of new tokens, as well as the asset vault for the event that we wanted to pay out dividends or perhaps transfer the assets to a new vault, and if we wanted to upgrade that contract. So anything that involves issuance of tokens or management of assets in the asset vault, other than just users redeeming the tokens that are due to them, has to go through the voting contract, and we'll talk about how that works in a few minutes. Finally, we have the asset vault contract, and users can take their tokens and redeem them for assets in the asset vault. Doing so destroys their tokens and destroys any claim to future assets that the asset vault might acquire. So going through the contracts, we have the Fort affiliate contract. So this is a standard OpenRelay affiliate contract, and we talked about these affiliate contracts in an earlier episode of Screenside Chats. This affiliate contract will receive fees from any 0x orders, and it will distribute 80% of those fees to the Fort asset pool. The other 20% of the fees will go to OpenRelay, the LLC, to help pay for the infrastructure costs. I should mention now that these slides are available on slides.openrelay.xyz. Here, this affiliate dashboard is a link to OpenRelay, to the Fort affiliate dashboard. So there you can see the assets that are held by the Fort affiliate contract, and if you want, distribute them from the affiliate contract to the asset pool contract. Then after the affiliate contract, we have the token contract. So this is the first one that was written specifically for Fort. This is based on the Open Zeppelin token contracts. It basically combines the Open Zeppelin mintable contract with the Open Zeppelin burnable token contract, which means that the owner of the token contract, which is the voting system, can mint new tokens, and anybody can burn tokens. Burning tokens is only useful, though, when you have the asset pool do it, because the asset pool, as it burns your tokens, will distribute you a share of the tokens in the asset pool. The voting contract will act as an administrator for the token contract, allowing the issuance of new tokens to be determined by all of the existing token holders. And then here we have a link to Etherscan so that you can see the code and any transactions that have been issued to and through the token contract. Then we have the Fort asset pool. So this is where the tokens actually go after they come out of the affiliate contract. Token holders can go to the asset pool to redeem tokens to claim the assets from the pool. So if you are redeeming 1% of all existing Fort tokens, then you get 1% of all asset pool assets. The asset pool only deals with ERC20 tokens. So if it doesn't deal directly with Ether, if you send Ether to the asset pool contract, it will convert them into wrapped Ether tokens, so that after that, it only has to deal with ERC20 tokens. But when you want to redeem your Fort tokens, you can specify how many tokens you want to redeem. It will see what percentage of those, of the total issuance of Fort tokens, does that percentage constitute. And for any of the tokens that are held by the asset pool, it will distribute that portion of that token to the asset pool, or to the person redeeming their tokens. Again, the vote contract has limited administrative privileges over the asset pool. Basically, the only thing that the asset pool allows the voting token, or the voting contract to do, is to send the token somewhere else. So if we ever wanted to upgrade the asset pool to a new asset pool contract, or if we wanted to send the tokens to some dividend payment contract, then a vote could be held to distribute the tokens to some new contract. Again, the asset pool contract is available on Etherscan, so you can see what contracts, or see the contract code, see what transactions have been played against it, and also see what assets it currently holds. Now for the voting contract, and this is one of the most complicated contracts I have written to date. Basically, the voting contract allows proposals by a limited set of submitters. So not just anybody can come along and propose a proposal for the voting contract. That's for several reasons. Again, because the voting contract is fairly complicated, we didn't want to have to deal with... we're trying to narrow the attack surface by only allowing people that we essentially trust to submit proposals, just in case there's some way to get those proposals to do things they were not intended to do. Secondly, we didn't want to have to deal with some guy who has one fort token out of 10,000 submitting a whole bunch of transactions and requiring other people to come in and vote against those proposals so that they don't happen. So we're having a small set of proposers. Right now, I am the only proposer, but hopefully soon we will hold a vote to elect additional proposers, probably out of some of the same people who are on this call. So once a vote has been proposed, that vote is open for 24 hours for people to vote yay or nay. The proposal period can be changed subject to its own vote. So we could hold a vote to change the proposal period to 48 hours or 72 hours or 12 hours or whatever we want. However, in order for that proposal, for that amount of time to change, we have to have a complete vote, which will take 24 hours. So again, the only way to change the voting period is through a vote, which will take whatever the current voting period is. In order to vote, any fort tokens must be deposited into the contract to cast votes, and that will allow you to cast one vote for each token deposited. Your tokens can be withdrawn after the vote closes, but as long as the vote is open, or as long as a vote you have voted on is open, your tokens will be locked into the contract so that we can guarantee you're not, pulling your voting and then sending your token somewhere else and then voting again. It would be very complicated to try to track each vote against each individual token. So instead, we just lock the tokens into the contract. You can, if there are multiple proposals, you can vote on multiple proposals with the same set of locked tokens, but they cannot be withdrawn from the contract until all of the proposals you have voted on have expired. So a vote will pass if the number of yay votes exceeds the number of yay votes. If the number of yay votes exceeds the number of nay votes once the vote is closed. So right now that would be 24 hours. We can change that period. But if the yays is greater than the nays, then the vote passes and the Ethereum transaction can be executed. The other way that a vote can pass faster than the 24-hour period is if the number of yays cast is greater than half the number of issued tokens. So Right now, there are 10,000 fort tokens issued. If 5,001 fort tokens voted yay on an issue, that transaction could be executed immediately without having to wait for the 24-hour period, because you cannot change your vote once you have cast it. So we know if the number of yays is greater than half the total issued tokens, that it is never going, nays is never going to exceed the number of yays. So that's the voting contract. Again, it's available on Etherscan. You can see any transactions that have happened there. You can see, I guess, any assets that the voting contract might hold, although it shouldn't hold any assets. And you can also go there and look for events. Events are emitted anytime somebody proposes a vote. They're also emitted anytime somebody votes on a vote or deposits their tokens, or once a vote gets the proposal gets executed. So yeah, again, that's available on Etherscan. So the current state, the fort contracts were actually deployed about a month ago. As I said, I have issued 10,000 tokens. I currently hold all of those, but I'm hoping to distribute some of them very soon. Anybody who has contributed to OpenRelay in an open source capacity has a claim to come get some tokens. Just send me an Ethereum address, and I will be happy to send you some fort tokens. The fort pool also has over 10,000 embiggen in the asset pool. Shortly after setting up the asset pool, I sent it 10,000 embiggen, and embiggen doing what embiggen does. That number has gone up since then. So every fort token, at the very least, is able to claim a little bit more than one embiggen token. Some warnings. There has been no outside security audit of the fort system of contracts. Generally, I'm not terribly concerned about it, because the only assets being protected by it right now are 10,000 embiggen. If we ever end up with a significant value held in the fort asset pool, we will probably want to see about an outside security audit. Aside from that, pretty much the entire system is upgradable. So if we do find some bugs, hopefully we will be able to upgrade our way through that without too many problems. We could create another token contract where people could redeem their fort tokens for whatever the new generation of fort tokens is. We could replace the voting contract by having by passing two votes under the current system, one to change the owner of the token contract and one to change the owner of the asset pool contract. And then we could point those to a new voting contract. So if people don't like the you have to lock your tokens in the contract, or if people don't like other aspects of the existing contract, or if we find bugs in the existing voting contract, we do have the option to replace the voting contract. And then finally, the asset pool also includes the capability to send all of the assets in the asset pool to a new asset pool contract, which would allow us to upgrade that as well. So if we do discover that there are any security issues, pretty much every piece of the system is upgradable to hopefully resolve those issues before anything major goes wrong with them. The next warning is that there is no user interface for redeeming tokens. So if you have these tokens, you can use them as ERC-721 tokens with any ERC-20 tokens with any ERC-20 friendly wallet. So you can send them around with MetaMask. You can send them around with my Ether wallet or my crypto. But there is no easy way to redeem them at this time. If you want to implement a user interface for redeeming tokens, we would actually give you fort tokens for implementing that user interface. If nobody steps up to do that, we'll do that at some point in the future. There is also no user interface for voting. So right now, there has been one vote so far to raise the voting period from its initial value of 5 minutes to its current value of 24 hours. However, there has been a second vote to issue the initial 10,000 fort tokens, but all of those were done by me at a JavaScript console with the token contracts, very manually. It would be fantastic to have a user interface for voting, and if we ever get to the point where we're holding a serious contentious vote, then we will make sure we have a user interface in order to hold that vote. So, ways to earn fort tokens. So if this all sounds good to you and you want to know how you can get a stake in the future of the fort tokens asset pool, you can help contribute to our widgets toolkit. We have many, and here, if you go to slides.openrelay.xyz, that header there is a link to the widgets project's issues page. We have a bunch of tickets for widgets that we would like to have implemented. We would also love to have somebody come through and do CSS and styling for the widgets that we already have. So if writing JavaScript widgets isn't your thing, but you are talented with CSS and are good with styling things, there are many, many touch-ups that could be made to make our existing widgets much prettier. If coding at all is not your thing, we would love to have help with documentation. We will soon be launching a documentation site for the widgets, which will actually be an interactive documentation site, so you can actually use the widgets right there while you're looking at them. And then finally, translations. If you speak another language, we would love to have help in translating our widgets to other languages and our documentation to other languages. The next project that you could contribute to is Massive. So Massive, and we covered this several Screenside chats ago, Massive is a tool for handling 0x orders at the command line on a large scale. We could use help with our V2 conversion. It is mostly converted, but there's still a couple of subcommands that are having issues if anybody wanted to come help tackle those. Also, there are some new features that we would are looking to build. Again, those are listed on the issues page on GitHub, and the link here to Massive is to that issues page. Any help with the V2 conversion or implementation of new Massive features would definitely warrant fort tokens. Then we have the OpenRelay core service. So this is what you hit when you get to OpenRelay, api.openrelay.xyz. Again, our issues page has a handful of tickets of new features and a couple of bug fixes that we'd like to have help on. If you want to help write code or help write documentation, again, that would warrant fort tokens. And then we don't have an issues page for this yet, but we probably will soon. Contributions to Fort itself. So if you wanted to go through and write user interfaces for redeeming your tokens, or write user interfaces for voting, those would warrant earning some fort tokens. And then also, if you wanted to help us out by doing a security review, even if you look at it and don't find any exploitable issues, if you write up give us a review and write up what you find and what you think of our fort contracts, just knowing that you had your eyes on it from a security perspective, we'd be happy to give you some fort tokens. What you cannot do to get fort tokens is buy them. If we sold you fort tokens, that would make them a security, and so we're not going to do that. They are ERC20 tokens. I guess in theory, if somebody earned them by contributing to one of these other projects, they could turn around and sell them on OpenRelay, but we will not be selling them ourselves. So that's it for the fort token itself. or the fort project. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask about the fort project?
Are there other ways people can contribute to the fort asset pool, even if they're not like if they just want to donate to it? Is that something that people are allowed to do?
I don't see why not. I mean, we'd have a hard time stopping somebody if they wanted to send tokens to our asset pool contract. If you go back several slides here, the asset pool contract is linked here on Etherscan. You could go send tokens to that address, and then it would be available to anybody who held fort tokens would have the opportunity to claim whatever tokens you donated. So yes, if somebody just wanted to donate to the fort asset pool, they would be more than welcome to do so.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. Next time we will be doing our next Screenside chat in 2 weeks. We have decided to move from a weekly schedule where we don't usually actually have them every week to a 2-week schedule where hopefully we will actually have them every 2 weeks. And next time, I think we're going to do more on widgets. So we had, I think, episode 5.5 and episode 6 were on our widget library. I'm hoping that by 2 weeks from now, we will have launched our widget documentation site. So we'll probably go through that, look at some of the widgets that we've put together since our last presentation, and talk about how people could contribute to both the widgets and the documentation for the widgets. So unless anybody has any question, that's all I've got.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you.